Inactivity serves no purpose whatsoever.
It is settled, then. Please excuse me, and enjoy your conversation at your leisure.
Thank you for arranging everything for us, Malus.
Excuse me, miss. Do you need anything from us?
Oh,
Hey, Navia's all quiet. This isn't like her at all.
I'm sorry that I only came to visit after all this time. After what happened, I didn't know how I was supposed to face the two of you.
Ah, if it's about that, there's no need to apologize. After my husband died, Spina di Rosula sent us a lot of mora and support. I understood your guilt and apology to be genuine.
But aren't all of those things nothing compared to the loss of Jacques? I can understand the kind of pain that comes with losing a father so needlessly.
You don't understand at all.
I didn't know how to face you, because I didn't know what I could possibly bring as a consolation gift. I know only the full truth could bring closure to you, and to all of us.
I'm sorry. I appreciate the sentiment, but you don't have to carry all that guilt. On the matter regarding my husband, my daughter and I have more or less found our answer already.
Would you mind sharing it with me? I really can't believe that my father could ever bring himself to shoot Jacques.
I always knew that my husband's money was earned through others' suffering. He told me countless times that if he could turn back the clock, he would never go into the synth business again. He had many regrets, and felt that he took the idea of providing for his family too literally. For the longest time, he thought Mora was everything. So when Mr. Callis came to him with a proposal, he accepted it almost immediately. He tried to be as careful as he could, but even so, he was still found out by the higher-ups.
They found out about his betrayal?
Papa didn't say that exactly, but Papa did tell me that I should never be ungrateful.
Before he left that day, he told me that he had no choice. It was only later that I realized it was his final farewell to the two of us. I don't know that for sure, but you could say that's the conclusion I eventually came to. Which is why I'm the one who should feel guilty. Callis had always taken great care of us, both when he was still alive and after he passed away. Even if he fired the shot that killed my husband, it was likely in self-defense. It is impossible for me to hate him for what he had done.
But Mama, why is Papa still the bad guy if he did the right thing? Papa always wanted to be a good man, so why did he have to do a bad thing in the end?
Well, things aren't always as they seem. You still feel like your papa was a good man, right?
Yeah, Papa was a really good man. The best in the whole world.
Then you should hold on to that. If a good man had to do a bad thing, then he must have had his reasons. Regardless of whether he left you a parasol or a sword. He must have done so to give you a better life.
Oh.
Thank you for everything you've told me. I will definitely find the truth. The current state of things is not something I'm willing to just sit back and accept.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to hear this from you. Even though your personality is quite different from your father's, your determination when you speak is really similar.
You really think so? That's the first time anyone said that to me.
Are you okay, Navia?
I'm fine. Don't worry. Let's investigate the 3 suspects next. Laurent should be nearby, and we should be able to find...
Greetings, boss. How may I be of assistance today?
I'm sure you've heard about what happened at the Opera House. Someone got turned into water right in front of us.
Yeah, I've heard. With something that dramatic, I'm sure journalists will milk it for all it's worth. And it'll be all the talk for the next several weeks.
It also reminded me, on the day that the incident happened with my father, it was raining outside, and we found some clothes left at the scene. After my partner here put the dots together for me, I feel like we should try to reopen his case. Can you do me a favor and try to recall what happened that night?
Let me think. Mr. Callis was feeling pretty upbeat that day. So he was drinking and bantering away with us at the table. After that, he told us that he wanted to go get some fresh air. So we let him go without thinking much of it. Who knew that we would hear 2 gunshots ring out right after? My first reaction was that Mr. Callis's life was in danger. So I grabbed my holster and made a mad dash toward the scene. But when I got there, it was already too late. Mr. Callis was standing over a dead body with a gun in his hands. All we could do was look back and forth at each other, not knowing what to say.
So you also remember 2 gunshots then?
Indeed. The guard said that the first shot didn't hit anyone, while the second killed Jacques. But I've never really bought that explanation. Reason being, Mr. Callis had left his gun on the table. I even made sure to confirm that before running to the scene. But according to the guards, that doesn't mean he couldn't have had other guns on his person. About the clothes left at the scene that you mentioned, do you think there was a 3rd person there who was turned into water?
At least from our perspective, my father had no reason to kill. So he would also have no reason to bring an extra gun with him. The gun he was holding probably belonged to Jacques, or a 3rd person on the scene.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you're saying Mr. Callis ended up with the gun because he seized it from one of the other guys? But hold on. If that's what had happened, then why didn't he share the truth with any of us? He didn't even want to face the Oratrice machine, and chose instead to prove his honor in a duel. Did he lose all faith in the courts after seeing someone dissolve right in front of his eyes?
About that, Malouse told me a thing or 2. So, I think I can understand why he committed to the duel. I'll tell you everything once the whole truth has been revealed.
I understand. Then I'll leave Mr. Callis's honor in your hands, boss. And if I may just say one more thing. The whole Callis the Unfaithful epithet has been a thorn in my side since the day it was invented. Many people have laughed at me for still calling him Mr. Callis, even after so many years have passed. But it was Mr. Callis's trust that allowed me to rise through the ranks of Spina di Rosula and live the life I lead today. No matter what others might say, he'll always be the man I respect the most. And he'll always be my boss.
Don't worry. I will definitely find the truth. You and all our other comrades at the Spina deserve to know the truth as well. Hey, Thierry! It's me!
Oh, now, what brings you here, Miss Navia? I've heard that you made quite the name for yourself at the Opera House.
Oh, so you've got news of that already.
Oh, okay. Hey, I'm also a member of the guards, you know. The way you make it sound, people would think I was sent off to Poisson because I had done something wrong.
Are you sure there isn't a little bit of truth in that? Under normal circumstances, shouldn't you have been called back to the city already?
I mean, where I work is really up to me. Let's just say I enjoy the ambiance of Poisson. Callis did a fantastic job running the town, building Spina di Rosula from the ground up and clearing many obstructions in my way. It would be next to impossible for me to find a similarly easy but high-paying job in the city. Anyway, enough chit-chat. Are these two friends of yours? You, here for some formal business?
Yes. These two are my partners. What happened at the Opera House made us realize that Linny's case and my father's may be related. We're trying to reinvestigate the details of my father's old case.
Ah, I get it. You think there might be more to the case now that we know people can be dissolved into water, right? I was also flabbergasted when I first heard of it. If you want to go through the original files from your father's case, I can help you look for them.
That'd be much appreciated. Thank you. Actually, I have another question. Do you have the authority to dispatch Gardamex?
Of course. Without them, I couldn't possibly handle Poisson on my own. Why do you ask? We definitely can't use them to forcefully get more evidence for your father's case.
Well, you see, just recently, we were attacked by a horde of unnumbered Gardamex in the city. So, if you hypothetically wanted to do something against me, all you would need to do was get rid of the mecha serial numbers and send them after me.
Then you think too highly of my abilities. Dispatching mecha is very different from controlling them. If I had to make an analogy, when you order a dish, the chef will make it for you. You can ask the chef to cook, but not to massage your shoulders or carry your baggage. If you try to make unreasonable demands, the chef would just think you're out of your mind and ignore you completely. The same goes for me and my Gardamex. Removing a serial number is also not as easy as you might think. There are a lot of complex steps to it, and it's almost impossible to keep it a secret. So I can promise you, those mecha were definitely private units. They're certainly not cheap. So, whoever their owner is must be super rich, powerful, or both. Now that you mention it, though, being in the synth business would definitely be profitable enough to afford this.
Oh, then you're officially in the clear, Thierry.
Oh, thank you for the vote of confidence, Navia. Jokes aside, I'd like to wish you all the best with your investigation. I'll be staying in the city for a little while, so just come find me if you need any support from the guards.
Hello. How may I help you?
I'm here to see Marcel. Could you please let him know? You can just say Navia's looking for him.
Sure. I will let him know right away.
Ah, Navia, hello. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm not as young as I used to be, so my legs are giving out a bit.
Oh, it's all right, Uncle Marcel. There's no need to stress. I just wanted to talk to you briefly about what happened in the Opera House. I'm sure you saw everything too, right?
Yes, I've never seen anything so strange.
Oh, you were at the Opera House too?
That's right. I went there with Navia to see the magic show. Who knew it would turn into a whole murder mystery? I also witnessed your marvelous sleuthing work. Quite impressive. To beat the Hydro Archon at her own game on her own turf, I can already imagine everyone in Fontaine discussing your exploits over a few glasses of wine.
Oh, Paimon doesn't want to become the talk of drunkards.
Apologies. It's just how Fontaine is as a nation. Everyone loves drama and theatrics.
Uncle Marcel, you've also noticed that other thing, right? The fact that humans can dissolve in water?
Yes, I was reminded of your father's case right away. Is that what you're investigating now?
Exactly. I still don't have much solid proof, but I can sense that the other side has already begun to act.
Oh, and what makes you say that?
We were attacked on Araneus by some unnumbered Gardamex. And there was also an attempt to get me to drink water from the primordial sea. If not for the vigilance of my partner, I probably wouldn't even be here talking to you right now.
Oh, you're giving us too much credit. Wasn't it you who protected us?
Alas, it seems things are heating up again. The peace that Callus sought so dearly will soon become a thing of the past. But rest assured, Navia, Poisson will always remain a safe haven for you. If you're scared, you can always return there. If anyone dares to lay their hands on you there, the Confrérie of Cabrières will use its funds to the last Mora to bring them to justice.
Thank you, Uncle Marcel. But I don't intend to go into hiding. I'm going to strike while the iron's hot. Do you have any new thoughts on my father's case?
About that. Sorry, my age is catching up with me, so it'll take me a while to recall my memory. The Confrérie was responsible for that banquet, so I was out and about the whole time making sure things were running smoothly. I didn't even have the time to drink with the guests. Then I heard the sound of a gunshot, and the rest was history.
Oh, it's okay. No need to push yourself. We'll ask around some more, see if there are any valuable clues elsewhere.
Sounds good. Just let me know if you ever need Mora. All my wealth comes from Callus's patronage and support. I'll spend however much it takes to clear his name.
We've talked to all three suspects, purely based on their conversations with me.
None of them sounded particularly suspicious.
I suppose that's to be expected, though. If a single conversation's all that's needed to find them out, then my father wouldn't have needed to investigate the case for so many years. Anyway, even though we didn't make a breakthrough, let's still compile what we were able to find.
But where should we start? Ah, you're right! Flora mentioned that Callus probably only ended up with the gun because of circumstance. That makes sense.
According to Jacques' family members, he already told them that he had been discovered, and that he had no choice before he left home that day. If I had to guess, he probably received an order from the synth boss to kill my father. Had he refused, he and his family's lives would have been forfeit.
So, Jacques fired the first shot?
Oh? And why is that?
Ooh, that's a good point. Jacques probably already knew that he was just being used as a tool for murder. And once he had completed his mission, he'd be of no more use to his boss.
So, what would make more sense from his perspective would be to turn his back on the Order and seek protection. Makes sense. But without evidence, that's still just a theory. Besides Jacques, the attack from the Gardamex has been bothering me quite a bit as well. It's obvious that our enemy has become more antsy after the secret of the primordial seawater was revealed.
Do you think he knew, even then, that we'd follow this lead to the end?
Given everything that's happened since, it's quite possible. But who among the 3 suspects would have the ability to control privately owned Gardamex? Uncle Marcel? My father did really trust him. And they worked together on a large number of projects. Maybe that's how he got to know Jacques. And with funds from the Confrérie, he could also afford a large number of Gardamex. It's still really hard for me to imagine, though. After all, Uncle Marcel has been around since I was just a child. Also, wouldn't this mean he has been spending a whole lot of mora and energy to fight his own synth business? Thierry, you say? Huh. It is possible that he's figured out a way to convert the Gardamex for personal use. But I didn't feel like he was lying when he was talking to us about the mecha. I also don't think he'd be able to keep that kind of tampering under wraps.
Yeah, had he actually tampered with the mecha, we'd be able to prove it with a simple check of the guard's inventory. If the mecha were taken from the guards, it should be pretty easy to find out when and how that happened.
Florent? It is true that he was closest to my father, and thus had the best chance of learning about his dealings with Jacques. But as Spina di Rosula's advisor, his work mostly deals with personnel and security, so he shouldn't have much means when it comes to finances.
So you're saying he's too broke to afford a mecha army?
Exactly. He can't. And even if he could, I don't think he would be able to dispatch a whole group so quickly. Who could it be? You know, if you think everything through, Uncle Marcel is indeed the most suspicious of them all.
Could we be missing other suspects? Malus didn't know about the people turning into water thing when he narrowed it down to these 3, did he?
Malus has always been very reliable, and his judgment of others' trustworthiness has been fair and well considered. When he laid out his case for the 3, the rationale he gave me made a lot of sense as well. The suspect is knowledgeable about the Spina's internal affairs, has the means to dispatch mecha to assassinate us, and possesses significant intellect and foresight. Even if I don't want to believe it, I'm starting to see how things could all tie back to Uncle Marcel.
Well, we still have another trump card on top of all the theorizing and speculating.
Yes. Malus did say that charging straight in there would be extremely risky, but we don't have any other options right now. We need far more solid proof before we can hope to go charging in on our enemy.
Navia, here you are. Oh, I've been looking for you.
Huh? Aren't you the guy from the guards? Did something happen?
Yeah. News came from Irenaeus just after you left. We've got another trial on our hands.
Wasn't that place built specifically for holding trials? What's so newsworthy about this one?
I know. But they said the person they're putting on trial is a Fatui harbinger called Tartaglia.
What? Is that someone you know?
Yeah, we know him. Maybe even a little too well.
Well, he's been accused of being the true culprit behind the serial disappearances case. It's absurd, don't you think?
Wait, how? None of our investigations have had anything to do with him.
That's what I thought was strange about it, so I came to tell you the news right away. If the charge against him stands, then it'll be next to impossible to get the guards to support any of our planned investigations.
Right. Because they'll think they've already found the culprit.
Yeah. And it'll be a lot harder then to clear Mr. Callus's name.
I understand. Well, partner, what do you think we should do? We still haven't found any conclusive evidence. Huh? Split up? What do you mean? Just as expected of my partner. Since this is a trial about the serial disappearances case, the culprit's attention will be focused on Irenaeus, leaving his home base wide open. You're right. This is our best opportunity. All right then, let's do this. I'll stall them at the Opera House and charge Marcel as the true culprit. I won't have any chance of making that charge stick though, unless we find more evidence. It'll be up to you.
We'll help you, just like you helped us in Lenny's trial.
Demoiselle, please allow us to accompany you.
I'm ready.
Ah, Malou, Silver, when did you two get here?
We heard that you'll be leaving Poisson and figured that you might require our assistance. It's our hope that your confidence will be bolstered with the two of us by your side.
Thank you so much. Then, let's make haste for Irenaeus. Paimon, Traveler, I'll see you at the Opera House.
See you then! Now that Navia has set out for Irenaeus, we should also get going. The location has already been marked on the map, so let's head over. According to Malusa's info, the synth production base is underwater. Let's go and try to find the entrance. Finally found it! Huh. So this is the entrance that leads to the synth production base. It sure doesn't... you're right. An important place like this is bound to have a ton of protective measures and mechanisms. Navia's probably arguing up a storm right now to stall for us.
It would appear that I must repeat my question again, Mr. Tartaglia. Do you accept the charge that you are the true culprit behind the serial disappearances case?
To be perfectly honest, I don't understand your country's complicated court system, or the reason why I'm being charged with something I've never even heard of. However, I did hear that people who have been charged can choose to participate in a duel to clear their name. Is that right? In which case, as long as I accept the charge, I can have an all-out fight with that champion duelist Clorend, right? I've got to admit, that's one of the most enticing offers I've ever received. When I privately sparred with her last time, she was obviously holding back. Real disappointing.
Hey! Don't you understand? You're currently the prime suspect for a major case. This isn't the place for you to be looking for fights.
Oh? Sounds like the Hydro Archon wants to lecture me on the ways of the Opera House. Then why don't you duel me too? I'm the kind of student that learns best in the heat of battle.
No. That's not what I meant.
Alas, it would appear that communication with the defendant is going poorly, and we have made very little progress. In that case, let me explain everything from the very beginning again. The goal of this trial is to determine the culprit behind the serial disappearances case.
That case had nothing to do with him! You've got the wrong man!
Huh? What's going on? Why is she interjecting again?
I told you it couldn't be one of the Fatui Harbingers.
Miss Navia, this is the second time you've interrupted the court proceedings. I only tolerated your behavior last time because you were able to provide the court with a key eyewitness. But that was an exception rather than standard court protocol. I can very well charge you with contempt of court for your interjections.
Oh, please. Did you ever think I had any respect for this place's pointless theatrics? We can put that discussion aside for now. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to charge the true culprit behind the serial disappearances case. And if my charges prove true, then Tartaglia here will be proven innocent by default, correct?
Oh, a young lady has charged in and offered to clear my name. How fascinating. Well, I'd gotten half bored to death by all these rules and procedures anyway, so I'll take you up on that offer. So, Your Honor, is there nothing else for me to do now?
You may take a seat for now in the audience, but that doesn't mean the suspicions against you have been lifted. Now then, Miss Navia, who is the person you would like to charge instead?
That person is... Marcel, the head of Confrérie of Cabriere!
Huh? What confrérie? Never heard of them in my life.
I've heard of them, but weren't they Spina di Rosula's sister organization?
Oh, is this going to be a friends to enemies type situation?
Please let me remind you, Miss Navia, that charging someone is an incredibly serious matter. Committing to the charge also means taking on the legal responsibilities associated with it. And if the charge fails, depending on the circumstances, you may also be charged with the crime of making a false accusation. Knowing this, do you still wish to charge this man?
Yes, I do.
In that case, I declare the charge to be valid. Miss Navia and attorneys, please take your places on the court. Members of the guards, please contact Mr. Marcel right away so that he may stand trial. Mr. Marcel, you will not require an attorney.
Apologies, sir. It all just happened so quickly. I still haven't figured out what's going on. I think an attorney won't be necessary. This is probably just a misunderstanding between me and Navia.
Very well. In that case, since both sides have now arrived,
I would like to take everyone back to 3 years ago, to the case of Callus the Unfaithful. Only through elucidating what really happened in that case can we connect all the dots for the serial disappearances case.
Navia, do you really think that I was the one who killed your father? Come on, why would I do that? Callus was my benefactor, and remember both you and I only ran to the scene when we heard the sound of a gun. If that's enough to make me a suspect, wouldn't that make everyone at that banquet a suspect as well?
I think there's no point in getting into the specifics right now. The audience doesn't even have the big picture yet. Even I'm struggling to remember some details of that case.
Exactly correct, Your Honor. I must refresh everyone's memory about that case before I can explain my charge and reasoning.
I see. In which case, I will recount the findings about that case as originally recorded by Maison Gardiennage. On the day of the murder, Spina di Rosula hosted a large banquet in a countryside estate owned by the Confrérie of Cabrières. During the banquet, all attending guests heard 2 gunshots from the courtyard. When the guests arrived at the scene, they found the primary suspect, Callus, holding a gun, while his acquaintance, Jacques, lay dead from a gunshot wound. The guards' investigation did not recover any other firearms from the scene. As a result, they concluded that the suspect's first shot must have missed, while the second must have taken Jacques' life. The suspect did not dispute this conclusion, and also declined to defend himself in court. Instead, he chose to prove his innocence through a duel. Callus was defeated by champion duelist Clarand in the ensuing duel, and soon succumbed to the injuries. These are the known facts about the case.
The one with the motive to kill was Jacques, not my father. And even so, Jacques still had no reason to pull the trigger. In truth, the third person shot Jacques first, and was shot in turn by my father when my father seized the gun from him. After that, the true culprit turned the third person into water, erasing all traces of him from the scene. Thank you for the summary, Your Honor. Of course, the guard's conclusion appeared quite sensible to us at the time. However, we should revisit the case now that we've gained new information about the abilities of water from the primordial sea. The testimony of the victim's family confirms that Jacques had thoughts of assassinating Callus when he set out for the banquet. However, in the end, he reconsidered, and instead shared everything with Callus, hoping to seek the latter's protection. Unfortunately for Jacques, the true culprit had already considered this possibility, and had sent out another assassin. This assassin first shot Jacques, then turned to shoot Callus, only for Callus to wrestle the gun from him and kill him instead. A pile of clothing was found at the scene. The guards once believed they were used by Jacques as a costume to disguise himself. But now, it is clear that the clothes were proof that there was a third person at the scene, and that they were turned into water after committing the murder. Since it was raining that day, the culprit was confident that they could use the rain to wash away all traces of their dissolved accomplice. Realizing this, the true culprit caused the hired assassin to dissolve into water, leading everyone to believe Callus was responsible for Jacques' murder. This is the true version of events.
So that's what happened. Wait. You're telling me something as dangerous as water from the primordial sea has been used for all these years?
What a great theory. It also explains Callus's and Jacques' respective motives. I guess they didn't shoot each other after all.
Mr. Marcel, you are the one being charged with the crime. You should provide a rebuttal if you wish to prove your innocence.
But I think I agree with everything Navia just said. In fact, there was nothing in her speech that directly implicated me.
Then, may I ask some questions? In my opinion, we primarily need to determine 2 things. 1, do you have the evidence to back up your claims?
I'm afraid not. At least not at this very moment.
Boo! If you don't have any evidence, you should just go home!
I may not have the evidence with me, but I know where I could go to collect it. If we look up the deserted clothes against a record of people who went missing around the same time, we should be able to find a match. Considering the serial disappearances case, The guards probably kept careful records of all missing persons from around that time, regardless of age or gender.
That makes sense to me. Monsieur Neuvillette, I would consider this to be a reasonable investigative direction.
Why do I feel like Farina's acting a little differently today?
Maybe she's scared of embarrassing herself again?
Alternatively, she's become more diligent after charging an innocent citizen in the last trial.
My second question has to do with the ensuing duel. If the truth is indeed as you described, then why didn't Mr. Callis explain himself in court? If he had testified that a person had been dissolved, he could have at least mounted a defense.
I've thought about this too, and the answer is actually pretty simple. He felt there were things that were more important to him. The dissolving power of water from the primordial sea is an important secret for the true culprit of the serial disappearances case. My father could have exposed it for all to see, but he chose to take it to the grave. At that time, Spina di Rosula was in dire straits, and his reputation had already been shattered. He had no guarantee that going forward with the truth would allow the culprit to be brought to justice. What was certain, however, was that it would paint a gigantic target on my back.
Boss once told me that Demoiselle had already been selected as the next target of the serial disappearances case.
What?
If the secret had gotten out, the culprit would have fought an all-out war with Espina right there and then. I wouldn't have been the only one in danger. All of us would have stood to lose our lives. Of course, the guards might eventually figure out the truth of the matter and determine that we were in the right. But what good would that do? How can a hollow verdict protect anyone? Had this opera house ever given my father any kind of confidence in its brand of justice, Spina di Rosula would have had no reason to exist. But by staying silent, we retained the ability to deter our opponents and continue the stalemate. I was able to become Spina di Rosula's president, which made me harder to target, as well as giving me more time to grow and learn. And once I have figured out the truth and stepped up to the challenge, I will do what this opera house cannot, and restore my father's truth and honor back to him.
So, you mean to say, your father intended to die in the duelist's ring?
That's right.
Do you have any proof?
Of course. All you need is to ask his opponent, Clarand. I don't need your apology, your guilt, or your support from the shadows. You don't have to do anything for my sake. But since he entrusted his will to you, Clarand, you should tell us the truth about his sacrifice.
So, during the duel, did you believe that Callis was intending to die?
Yes, I did. As a champion duelist, I've fought many battles and taken a countless number of dishonored lives. In my line of work, I've seen all kinds of people give their all for the faintest hope to continue living. Some were determined, others passionate, and some even manic and twisted. Just one look and I can tell if a duelist is hoping to live or if they're looking to die. I hereby swear on my name and honor as a champion duelist that Mr. Callis never intended to leave the ring alive.
Since that's your testimony, I have no more questions. It appears there really are good grounds to reopen this case.
I concur. However, Miss Navia, you still have not explained the link between your father's case and the serial disappearances case.
Right? What she said was fascinating, but kind of beside the point.
Wait, weren't they just talking about the serial disappearances case?
Of course, Your Honor. The two cases are connected via a matter of timing. In my father's case, the culprit intended to kill both Jacques and Callis. As a result, they planned to act after hearing 2 gunshots. And at the end of Linny's trial, the culprit also only dissolved the victim in front of everyone because they realized they were at risk of being identified. The culprit could only time their actions so precisely if they were already at the scene. Coincidentally, Marcel attended both the banquet and the trial.
So that's why you suspected me. Even after hearing your reasoning, I still can't help but find it a little preposterous. I'm used to it, though. You've always been an impulsive and sentimental child, Navia. It's one of your most endearing traits.
No need to appeal to pathos.
I won't try to refute your points one by one, but even if everything you just said was true, can you prove that I was the only person present at both events? On top of that, does a person have to be physically present to control the timing? Can't someone remotely monitor the place?
I don't know what you can say to that.
I know that even with that, you might still think you can reduce the list of suspects with some further investigations until I'm the only one left on the list. Alas, who won't feel at least a little hurt by an accusation of murder from a girl you see as your own daughter? But if I were to dismiss this completely, you'd also think I'm not being considerate of your feelings. Ah well, let Uncle Marcel teach you another lesson. Do you know what the biggest flaw in your reasoning is?
I suppose you're gonna tell me anyways.
It's timing again. I'm a businessman by trade. From that standpoint, there's no reason for me to kidnap young women. It's a high-risk action with nothing to gain. In addition, I left my home in Snezhnaya when I was young to come to Poisson and work in some trade. My business only thrived when I received Callus's patronage. But the disappearances began before I ever stepped foot in Fontaine.
I do apologize, Demoiselle. This was my mistake.
No, it's not your fault. I'm sure he had come prepared.
Is there anything else you'd like to say? Would you like to check the date of my first business license against the first known case of the serial disappearances? You can also take a look at my border entry records, or ask my friends and family when I left Snezhnaya for the first time. Could those records and testimonies do something to appease the unspeakable anguish in your heart?
Seems like she got the wrong guy. At this rate, Navia will be convicted for falsely accusing him.
I think you've done a superb job of dissecting your father's feelings as he neared the end of his life. But aren't you going against all of his wishes and expectations right now? He wished for you to become more rational, collected, and conscientious, instead of dwelling only on your own feelings. Once you've learned to be more considerate of others' feelings, and to stop rushing headlong into things, you'd have met most of his expectations.
This isn't just about me, and it never has been. The biggest difference between me and the rest of the victims is that I still have the ability to search for the truth, while that same agency has long been taken from them. The people whose families were destroyed by synth abuse, the people who lost their loved ones to the serial disappearances, and the people who suffered tragic ends due to their sense of justice. Many people's images are flashing before my eyes. I'm sure some are coming to those of you in the audience as well. And whose image do you see, Marcel? Is it a man named Vacher? Oh, so you do know that name.
I'm merely surprised you'd suddenly say the name of someone I've never even heard of.
I was waiting for you to say that.
Illusion shattered!
Busted. Things are about to get dicey.
A bitter pill to swallow.
Remember, health comes first. Defract!
Is it because of this mechanism in the middle? That guy really prepared a lot of stuff for this place.